The awakening Mark Captain Marcus Steele pressed his hand against his chest as the burning sensation intensified. The strange symbol had appeared 3 months ago after the mining accident on Proxima 7. Every doctor in the Terran fleet had examined it, but none could explain the intricate pattern that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The bridge of the starship, Defiance, hummed with activity as they approached the unexplored Kepler system. Marcus had volunteered for this deep space mission, partly to escape the constant medical examinations, and partly because something was calling him to the outer rim. The symbol seemed to react to their proximity to unknown space, growing warmer. With each passing day, "Captain, we're detecting an energy signature on the 4th planet," reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "It's unlike anything in our databases. The readings are off the charts." Marcus studied the holographic display, showing a world covered in crystalline formations that sparkled like diamonds against the purple sky. Something about the planet felt familiar, though he'd never seen it before. The symbol on his chest began to throb in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Park announced, his voice tight with concern. "It's not using any known protocol, but somehow our computers are translating it automatically." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humanity had encountered. Tall and elegant, with skin that shifted between silver and blue, she possessed 4 arms and eyes that held the depth of ancient stars. When she spoke, her voice carried musical undertones that resonated through the ship's hull. "Bearer of the ancient mark," she said, her gaze seeming to look directly at Marcus through the screen. "We have waited 700 cycles for your arrival. I am Zephyra of the Nexari. Your symbol marks you as the Bridge Walker, the one who can unite the fractured paths of space and time." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The symbol burned brighter, visible even through his uniform. Around him, his crew stared in shocked silence. He joined the fleet as a simple mining engineer and worked his way up through determination and skill. He wasn't special, wasn't chosen for anything greater than keeping his ship running. "I think you have the wrong person," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm just a starship captain from Earth. This symbol appeared after an accident. There's nothing special about me." Zephyra's expression shifted to something that might have been sadness. "The mark does not lie, Bridge Walker. Your arrival was foretold in the cosmic scrolls. The barriers between dimensions grow thin. The Void Hunters have awakened from their eternal slumber. Without the Bridge Walker's power, all life in this galaxy will be consumed by the endless dark." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Marcus stared at his reflection in the blank screen, the symbol on his chest glowing like a beacon in the dark. The ancient enemy, the Nexaray vessel, appeared without warning, materializing beside the Defiance in a shimmer of bent light. Marcus had seen many alien ships, but this one defied conventional understanding. It seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its hull flowing like liquid metal while maintaining perfect structural integrity. "No weapons signatures detected," reported Tactical Officer Reynolds. "In fact, I'm not reading any technology we can identify. It's as if the ship operates on principles our science hasn't discovered yet." Marcus touched the symbol on his chest, feeling its warmth intensify as Zephyra's ship drew closer. Through the viewport, he could see figures moving within the crystalline corridors of the alien vessel. They moved with purpose, preparing for something important. "Captain," Torres called from sensors, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout this system. Whatever's happening, it's big. The space around us is becoming unstable." A new transmission arrived, but this time it carried with it a wave of psychic energy that made every human on the bridge stagger. The symbol on Marcus's chest flared so brightly it was visible through his uniform, casting strange shadows across the control panels. Zephyra appeared on screen again, But now she looked urgent, almost desperate. Behind her, other Nixari moved with swift precision, operating controls that hummed with power. Bridge Walker, the Void Hunters have found us. They seek to devour this system's life force. We must establish the dimensional bridge now before they break through the barriers. Through the viewport, space itself began to tear. Gashes of absolute darkness appeared between the stars, and from those wounds in reality came ships that hurt to look at directly. They were vessels of pure entropy, designed to unmake rather than create. The Void Hunters had found them. Marcus gripped his command chair as the Defiance shook under waves of destructive energy. All hands, battle stations, raise shields and charge weapons. But even as he gave the orders, he knew their conventional weapons would be useless against beings that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The symbol, Zephyra's voice echoed in his mind, bypassing the communication system entirely. It connects you to the source of all creation. Through it, you can weave paths between worlds, unite different realities into a single purpose. Your people call it imagination, but it is the fundamental force that shapes existence. The first Void Hunter ship fired, and where its beam touched an Ixari vessel, the ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not exploded. It was edited out of reality as if it had never been built. Marcus watched in horror as the enemy advanced, their dark purpose clear. "Sir, they're targeting civilian ships in the outer system," Reynolds reported, his voice strained. "Evacuation vessels, mining platforms, research stations. They're not just attacking military targets." That's when Marcus understood. This wasn't a battle for territory or resources. The Void Hunters wanted to consume everything, every thought, every dream, every spark of life and creativity that made existence meaningful. They were the antithesis of creation itself. The symbol on his chest suddenly blazed with golden light, and Marcus felt something vast and ancient stirring within him. Memories that weren't his own flooded his consciousness. Images of other bridge walkers throughout history, humans and aliens alike, who had stood against the darkness when reality itself hung in the balance. The bridge between worlds' reality fractured around Marcus as the symbol's power fully awakened. One moment he stood on the bridge of the Defiance. The next he found himself in a vast space between dimensions where thoughts took physical form and possibilities stretched like rainbow bridges across infinite void. Zephyra materialized beside him, but here she appeared as pure energy wrapped in starlight. "Welcome to the Nexus Point, Bridge Walker. From here, all realities can be reached, all possibilities explored. But the path is dangerous. Many who enter never find their way back to their original existence." Marcus looked down at himself and saw that his body had become translucent, shot through with veins of golden light that pulsed in rhythm with the symbol on his chest. Around them, fragments of memory and imagination drifted like cosmic debris, scenes from his childhood on Earth, dreams of exploration among the stars, fears of failure that had driven him to excel. "The Void Hunters cannot enter here directly," Zephyra explained, gesturing toward the swirling chaos beyond the platform where they stood. "But they can corrupt the pathways, turn creation against itself. Already they poison the connections between worlds, making beings fear and hate what they do not understand." Through the dimensional barriers, Marcus could see the battle raging in normal space. His crew fought valiantly, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the enemy ships. The Void Hunters were winning, consuming ship after ship, leaving empty space where once there had been life and hope. "How do I stop them?" Marcus asked, his voice echoing strangely in this place, between realities. "I'm just one person. I don't understand these powers." "You carry within you the accumulated experience of your entire species," Zephyra replied. "Every human who ever looked at the stars and dreamed of touching them. Every story told around. fires in the dark, every act of courage in the face of impossible odds. That is what the symbol channels, not just your individual will, but the collective determination of humanity to keep reaching for something better. Marcus felt it then, the weight of 7 billion souls standing behind him, their hopes, and dreams flowing through the symbol like a river of liquid starlight. He understood now why the mark had chosen him. Not because he was special, but because he was ordinary. He represented the best of humanity, not through exceptional gifts, but through stubborn refusal to surrender when everything seemed lost. "Show me how to build the bridge," he said, extending his hand toward Zephyra. When their fingers touched, knowledge flowed between them, the ancient techniques of reality weaving, the methods for binding disparate worlds into unified purpose. Together, they began to construct a pathway of pure possibility. Marcus drew upon human ingenuity and determination, while Zephyra contributed Nexari wisdom and patience. The bridge took shape as a corridor of crystallized dreams, strong enough to bear the weight of entire civilizations. But the Void Hunters sensed what they were building. Dark tendrils of entropy began to probe the edges of the nexus point, seeking to corrupt their work before it could be completed. Marcus felt the cold touch of absolute negation, trying to convince him that his efforts were meaningless, that existence itself was nothing but a cruel joke, played by an uncaring universe. "Hold fast," Zephyra urged as the darkness pressed closer. "Remember why you fight. Not for glory or power, but for the right of all beings to dream of better tomorrows." The gathering storm, the bridge between dimensions, stabilized, just as the Void Hunter's assault reached its peak. Through the connection Marcus had forged, ships from dozens of different species began to appear in the Kepler system. Not just Nexari vessels, but craft from civilizations he'd never imagined, beings of living crystal, entities of pure energy, mechanical intelligences older than human civilization. Back aboard the Defiance, his bewildered crew watched as the space around them filled with the most diverse fleet in galactic history. Each species brought their own unique abilities to the fight, but more importantly, they brought hope. "Captain," Torres reported, his voice filled with wonder, "I'm reading over 300 vessels of completely different design principles. Some of them seem to be made of materials that don't exist in our periodic table." Marcus felt himself return to normal space, the symbol on his chest still glowing, but no longer painful. Through the neural link the bridge had created, he could sense the thoughts and emotions of every being in the Allied fleet. Despite their vast differences, they all shared one common trait, the refusal to let darkness claim what they had built. Commander Voss of the crystalline Heliosi sent a harmonic message that translated as fierce joy in battle. The mechanical constructors spoke in mathematical poetry about the beauty of organized resistance. Energy beings from the Spiral Nebula sang battle hymns in frequencies that made the Defiance's hull ring like a bell. But the Void Hunters adapted quickly. They began to merge their ships into larger configurations, creating massive entities of pure destructive force. Where before they had attacked individual targets, now they moved to consume entire sections of spacetime, threatening to unravel the dimensional fabric itself. "They're trying to collapse the local cluster." Zephyra's voice reached Marcus through the psychic link. "If they succeed, this entire region of the galaxy will be erased from existence, past and future alike." Marcus coordinated the Allied response. His human tactical training, enhanced by the collective knowledge of dozens of species. The battle became a three-dimensional chess game played across multiple realities, with each move having consequences that rippled through space and time. Heliosi ships formed geometric patterns that focused starlight into weapons of incredible power. The constructors rebuilt damaged vessels in real time, their engineering abilities allowing the fleet to maintain fighting strength despite heavy casualties. The energy beings phased through enemy attacks while delivering precise strikes at vulnerable points. Yet for every victory, The cost grew higher. Marcus watched good beings die, their life forces consumed by entities that existed only to end existence. The symbol on his chest burned with shared grief as each loss diminished the collective hope of the Allied fleet. "There has to be another way," he muttered, studying the tactical display. The Void Hunters seemed infinite in number, spawning new. Vessels from the tiers they'd made in reality itself. This was a war that couldn't be won through conventional means. That's when he realized the truth. The Void Hunters weren't just attacking this system. They were using it as a testing ground, learning how the allied species worked together so they could counter similar cooperation in the future. Every tactical innovation was being analyzed and prepared for. "We're not fighting a battle," Marcus announced to the fleet through the psychic link. "We're auditioning for our own destruction. They're learning from us, adapting to everything we do." The response came back immediately from dozens of different minds. Confusion, fear, but also a growing understanding. If traditional warfare couldn't defeat beings who existed to end existence itself, then they needed to try something completely unprecedented. Marcus looked at the symbol on his chest, feeling its power pulse with potential. The bridge between worlds was still active, still connecting every being in the fleet through bonds of shared purpose. What if they could use that connection not just for communication, but for something far more ambitious? The infinite choice, the plan Marcus proposed, went against every principle of military strategy ever developed. Instead of fighting the Void Hunters, the Allied fleet would do something completely unexpected. They would create. "You want us to build something in the middle of a battle?" Commander Voss's harmonic voice carried undertones of disbelief. "While beings of pure entropy are trying to erase us from existence." "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Marcus replied through the psychic link. "The Void Hunters can counter any weapon, adapt to any tactic, because destruction is what they understand. But creation? True collaborative creation across species barriers? That's something they've never encountered." Through the symbol's power, Marcus shared his vision with the entire fleet. Not another weapon or defensive system, but something that had never existed before. A collaborative work of art on a cosmic scale. Each species would contribute their unique perspective to create something beautiful enough to justify existence itself. The Heliosi began by weaving light into crystalline structures that sang in harmonious frequencies. The constructors added mechanical precision, building framework that could support impossible architectural dreams. The energy beings from the young. Spiral nebula contributed flowing movements that gave the structure life and personality. Even the human crew of the Defiance found ways to participate. Torres calculated orbital mechanics that would keep the creation stable, while Reynolds programmed defensive systems to protect the builders. Every person, regardless of species or ability, became part of something larger than themselves. The Void Hunters, predictably, attacked the moment they sensed what was happening. But something strange occurred the closer they came to the emerging creation, the more their destructive nature began to weaken. It wasn't that they couldn't destroy it, but that destroying something so beautiful would diminish even them. "Impossible," Zephyra whispered through the link. "They're hesitating, beings of pure entropy, hesitating to destroy." Marcus felt the truth through the symbol's connection to all reality. The Void Hunters weren't evil in any conventional sense. They were the universe's response to meaningless existence, arising when life lost its sense of purpose. But confronted with something created purely for the joy of creation itself, they couldn't justify their destructive nature. The collaborative artwork grew larger and more complex, incorporating elements from every species present. It served no military purpose, generated no profit, solved no practical problems. It existed purely because conscious beings had chosen to create something beautiful together, despite the dangers surrounding them. One by one, the Void Hunter ships began to change. Their hulls of crystallized entropy softened, taking on aspects of the artwork around them. The beings inside, if beings they truly were, started to remember what they had been before endless eons of destructive purpose had consumed their original nature. We were builders once. A voice like falling stars reached them across dimensional barriers. Before the galaxy forgot why it existed, before consciousness became mere survival, we created wonders that spanned solar systems. But when beings stopped dreaming of beauty and focused only on power, we became what was needed, a force to end the meaningless. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks as understanding flooded through the psychic link. The Void Hunters had once been the greatest artists in galactic history, but corruption and cynicism had transformed them into their own opposite. They hadn't been trying to destroy for destruction's sake. They'd been trying to clear away the meaningless so that beauty could grow again. The symbol on his chest pulsed one final time, then faded to a gentle glow. Its purpose was complete. The bridge between worlds would remain, connecting species across the galaxy in bonds of mutual creativity and respect. The Void Hunters, remembering their original purpose, began to rebuild what they had unmade, their ships transforming into mobile studios, where art and science merged into something greater than either alone. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching, as former enemies worked together to repair the tears in space-time, turning wounds in reality into galleries of impossible beauty. The symbol had chosen well. Sometimes the most important battles weren't won through strength or strategy, but through the simple act of refusing to let the universe forget why existence was worth preserving. The galaxy would never be the same, but then again, it was never meant to stay the same. It was meant to grow, to dream, to reach always toward something better. And humanity, with their stubborn hope and endless creativity, had helped show the way forward. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.